Neural handshake, 100%.
Yes.
We are in the drift, ready to go and smash some kaiju.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Vulcan Reviews. It has been some time since we spoke for a geek pop culture movie review. And this time we are back in one of our must-watch geek pop culture movies in 2015, which is Pacific Rim Uprising. Thanks to early movie premiere, we got to watch the next chapter in the Pacific Rim saga. I'm Mr. Smock, Vulcan Cultural Officer, now recruited into the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps. Together with me is Vincent. May recognize him from our previous movie review discussions. He is also now my drift-compatible partner, yet I find human brain patterns somewhat difficult to process, but we are drift-compatible.
Yeah, it's kind of like your Vulcan, my mind to your mind, my thoughts to your thoughts thing,
It's a mind meld.
Yes. Similar idea.
Juara Tenggara, go ahead, save Malaysia.
That's the Malaysian Jaeger, in case you didn't know. Yes, we have our own Jaeger.
So to briefly recap, Pacific Rim Uprising is the sequel to Pacific Rim movie, produced and directed by Academy Award winner Guillermo del Toro. The basic premise of the movie brings together what pop culture geeks would have been wanting to see on the big screen for untold time, which is giant robots fighting giant monsters, destroying cities. It's very much a blend of sort of classic traditional Japanese monster movies where you have the hero on the size or giant form of, say, an Ultraman fighting monsters in their cities and with mayhem and destruction all over the place. But now as a big budget Hollywood movie where instead of robots, you have robots called Jaegers fighting monsters called Kaiju, which traditionally means monsters in Japanese. Jaeger means hunter in German. We do not know why they've actually gone to name it that way, but either way it sounds somewhat
Cool, I guess, Jaeger sounds badass.
So in the first Pacific Rim Uprising, the world as we knew it was invaded by monstrous kaiju. They emerged from an interdimensional rift called the Breach in the Pacific Ocean, with this spewing forth these monsters to invade various cities around the Pacific coast, hence the Pacific Rim. So this happens in around 2013, and within 2 years the first Jaeger Mark 1s are launched to combat monsters with robotic monsters, which succeeded for a while until more kaiju was spawning faster and stronger
and
from
bigger.
the breach, yes, which were destroying Jaegers faster than they could be built. So by the year 2025, 10 years into the war, humanity is on the brink of extinction. Of course, their alternate plan was to build this wall around the Pacific Rim, which kind of sounds like this wall being built between US and Mexico. And that didn't work.
Oh yeah,
well.
it failed spectacularly in the first movie, is it? I mean, one knock, two knock, and the third knock, that's it. It's breach.
So as a last-ditch gambit to save the world, the final mission launched the two remaining Jaegers into the Pacific Ocean to seal the breach. In the course of fighting 3 kaiju, including a very massive one, both Jaegers are destroyed, but they have managed to essentially drop a nuclear bomb into the other dimension in the face of what the aliens are called precursors, blowing it up and therefore sealing the breach. Only the 2 Jaeger pilots survived, which is Rayleigh Beckett and Mako Mori. Now, Pacific Rim Uprising takes place 10 years after these events in the beach. The world is at peace. The Jaeger program has been reinstated as a successful defense force under the Pan-Pacific Defense Corps to fight against potential Kaiju threats re-emerging to wreak havoc on the world. Our main protagonist this time is Jake Pentecost, played by John Jaeger. You see him just virtually everywhere now. Of course, the name Pentecost goes with baggage, of which Jake's father is Stacker Pentecost, which was Marshal of the PPDC during the final years of the previous Kaiju War. So Stacker was lost saving the world and one of the greatest heroes of mankind. And as Jake has said a number of times in the movie, he is not his father. And therefore, rather than being a Jaeger pilot, he was in fact washed out from the program and has spent the last 10 years on the fringes of the criminal underworld, trying to live the free, good life, happy of responsibilities.
And also stealing Jaeger tech, because, well, every other country is trying to make their own Jaeger, and what's the best way to build one quickly is to reverse engineer technology.
Jake, your father always said he wanted you to be a pilot.
He said a lot of things. I'm not a hero like he was.
The Kaiju. They're gonna come back. I'm not gonna be stuck waiting for someone else to come save my ass.
Cadets, you better gear up.
So, the Jaeger program has been reconstructed. We now have Mark 6 Jaegers. As a reference, this is Gypsy Danger from the first movie, which is a Mark II Jaeger, and which has since been superseded by the Mark VI Gypsy Avenger Jaeger in Pacific Rim Uprising. Essentially is rebuilt in the image of Gypsy Danger, which saved the world, and therefore Gypsy Avenger as the next incarnation owes much of its trademark appearance, iconic look of Gypsy Danger. Although this time it comes with double
reactor or
It's
something.
kind of like, this big chest reactor that Iron Man has, and but in this case now there's two. More about this toy later. So 10 years, Pacific Rim Uprising. It's no secret from the trailers that, of course, a Kaiju invasion comes yet again, and the PPDC has to rise up to the occasion and save the day. So joining Jake Pentecost is Nate Lambert, played by Scott Eastwood, which is an ace Jaeger pilot. And the next other major Jaeger pilot is Amari Namani. She's actually
Homeless girl that Jake stumbled into during one of his night of thievery.
She lost her parents during the first Kaiju War and has then since been orphaned and has been scavenging parts to build her own Jaeger in anticipation of the next Kaiju invasion. So it's no secret again from the trailers, and I guess it's non-spoilers, that she gets recruited as a cadet in the Jaeger programs, of which then we also introduce in other cadets, which then lead to piloting many of the different new Jaegers shown in this movie.
And it's a very international group, I think, to kind of represent the whole UN thing, because the Pacific Defense Corps, I guess, is an analog for UN Defense Force when you think about it. So there is the usual Russian, there's the usual Chinese, and of course there's the Indian, just to balance out the quarter.
Yeah, and this time leading the PPDC is Marshal Kwan, obviously a Chinese national who runs the Shutterdome where the Jaeger Academy is taking place. The other major character is Lee Wen Shao, which is
Head of Shao
CEO,
Industries.
inventor of Shao Industries, which is, should we say, a mega corporation now in the business of building what they call drone Jaegers. Jaegers which do not need the drift compatible pilots, but instead are able to be controlled remotely.
Basically, without having to put your pilots in harm, you see.
If you remember, if any of you have watched, of course, the geeky movie Iron Man 3, you remember Tony Stark puts on a headset and yet the Iron Man armor goes fly on oneself remotely.
Same idea.
So the drone is very much this idea. Now, reprising their roles from the previous movie, we have Rinko Kunichi, which returns as Mako Mori. She is now Secretary General of the PPDC, which is some high-ranking government official.
Kind of like Secretary General of UN.
But of the PPDC.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Real world analog.
I think we can say that the PPDC is sort of like the UN's military arm to prevent against world invasion. And that's actually true, but not just that, we actually see the Jaegers working on policing functions as well.
Yes.
The first Jaeger we actually see is one called November Ajax. I think it's a pretty cool name, which was actually sort of like, I believe it's a US Jaeger, patrolling the coast of around Santa Monica, the east coast of US, where the story begins, and you find Jake and Amari. Also returning is Dr. Newt Gisler, played by Charlie Day. He has since joined Shao Industries as one of their lead engineers, inventors. Of course, you remember him. He was part of the scientist couple together with Herman Gottlieb. And Dr. Gottlieb is still with the PPDC, trying to invent more new ways of enhancing Jaegers against this potential threat.
Yeah.
This is the way the world ends.
How'd they get into our world?
Someone let them in. Someone from our world.
Who is that?
Definitely not one of ours.
Let's do this.
This is your chance to make things right.
We're gonna need more pilots. We have them. There are pilots we remember as legends, but they didn't start out that way. They started out like us. This is our time to make a difference. Do you understand? Jaeger pilots, do you understand?
One way to find out. That's what I'm talking about!
Lead pilot from the first movie, Raleigh Beckett, is, I guess you say, sorely missing from this movie.
There was no reference made, so...
There's a brief reference made to his name, but there's no explanation on why he is no longer seen as part of the PPDC. Of course, on the production background, we know that he actually was tied to filming another movie. This is Charlie Hunnam, the actor.
I think it was King Arthur.
May have been King Arthur, actually it might have been another title, either way, he's kind of saying that although he was contractually obligated to be in Pacific Rim Uprising, it was the agreement with then the studio that if his heart wasn't in it, he was really wanting to do this other movie, then it's better that he not be in. Hence we have John Boyega as Jake Pentecost.
Which I think is a better choice, because I think John Boyega is a more likable and charismatic actor than Charlie Hunnam ever was. I mean, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of him in the first movie. I mean, he did his role well, but in a very stereotypical way that is expected of a hero in such a movie. Is a very American, rebel without a cause. I mean, John Boyega is kind of that too in the beginning, but I felt he brought his own twist to it.
I felt, of course, that Gypsy Danger is actually The first movie, Gypsy Danger, is actually the American Jaeger.
Yes.
Really Beckett is American. This time, Gypsy Avenger, well, I guess Nate Lambert contributes that American.
Yeah, so it's like half-half. It's a British-American joint venture.
Because basically, Stacker and Jake Pentecost is, well, really not sounding like so much Americans. It's actually kind of refreshing to see John Boyega speak in
his real
I
accent.
won't say his natural accent, but he is basically adopting how Idris Elba accent used in the first movie.
Actually, that's pretty much how it sounds like in real life.
It's close, but I think he is still adapting what was presented by Idris Elba.
To honor the spirit of Idris Elba performance,
Alright, so let's get to the crux of the main review. Vincent, what's your first impressions of Pacific Rim Uprising?
Oh, I definitely like it a lot. In some ways, I felt that it's better than the first movie. I mean, to me, more likable lead. And in preparation for this video review, I actually rewatched back some scene from the first movie. And I realized that a stark difference is that most of the fight scene in the first movie actually takes place at night.
Yes.
There's actually a reason for this. I mean, dramatic purpose, but another reason is also it's actually easier to hide not so good quality CGI on night scene. Basically, it's harder to make CGI look realistic in day scene. So night scene is basically your getaway, you see, because you're less likely to notice how fake it is because everything is darker. So one refreshing thing about this movie is that pretty much majority of the fight scenes are actually done in a day. And the CGI is definitely an improvement. I like how the robots move more fluid this time. They're more agile. I mean, I've seen some people complain how it's not realistic now because in the first movie, they move with... There's a sluggishness to the move, you see. When they punch, they're slower.
There's a sense of that immense scale.
Yeah, weight. And it works for the first movie, no doubt. But I think it's the right way to go. I mean, Mark 2 to Mark 6, so obviously there has to be improvement. So obviously they figure out that they can make them move faster, more efficiently, and that lends to more dynamic fight scene, in my opinion. It's not just punching and smashing, you see. They actually can do, surprising acrobatics, some martial art moves, because you see them in the first movie actually train martial art moves. So if they can't actually execute that with a robot, why would they even bother training those kind of moves? So now you can actually see those moves being implemented, which looks cool. It lends to better fight scene overall, and of course, different ways to kick ass, you see.
It's worth highlighting again that this movie is not directed by the famed Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah.
He is still there as producer, but I understand at the time he was filming The Shape of Water.
And I guess he made the right choice since he won Best Picture. Well, congrats, Guillermo.
But of course, that decided that the aesthetic look of Pacific Rim Uprising differs, I won't say a lot, but considerably from the first movie.
Yeah.
And that visual style is very clear when you first see the trailers, because what Vincent has mentioned, I think that fluidity with the Jaegers, the way they move, is not been so well digested with some fans of the original movie. Of course, that I think what Vincent has mentioned also, that the night scenes, the rain, and those effects very much contributed to that scale and immensity of what the Jaegers. So the strong argument, I think, against with what sort of like, the Fat 4 fans have said this about the first movie and the second movie is that yes, the look is different, and I would like to pose that, okay, some of you fans may not like that new look, but that being said, do you want to see the same look of the first movie, which was the Jaegers, again fighting in night, in rain, under that underwater, the dark environment? We've seen that before.
Yeah.
Do we want to see more of that same thing again? And therefore, almost all the Jaeger action in this movie takes place in broad daylight.
Mm-hmm.
There's no hiding behind rain, and there's a lot of mayhem and destruction.
Yeah.
That mayhem destruction basically takes place in cities we are should be somewhat familiar with. The scale of destruction perhaps also contributes to that mess of spectacle on the screen that maybe makes it a bit difficult to see what's happening at some times. The speed at which this takes place is also very fast. I've heard association, it looks like this mangled mass of metal during the latter Transformer movies, but with giant robots fighting giant monsters instead. So I think the other argument, as I said before, that visual look is that it is different environment, different type of Jaegers, new, refreshing. It feels a bit too animated. I think the trailers that has been out do not give full justice to the look of the Jaeger in the movies. My impression when first seeing the Jaegers in the movies, then of course on the big screen, there is a feel of the immense scale. There is weight to this, like some of the steps of the Jaeger, which shake the ground and so forth, which is familiar with the first movie. That's perhaps not really well translated in the trailers, because trailers are supposed to move very quickly, very fast paced. You just see the action. That being said, though, I think maybe that small disservice of the trailers, especially the first very teaser trailer being released, that it was kind of looking like the Jaegers became a toy commercial.
Yeah, and there's a very low budget feel to it, but rest assured the final product came out looking much better. They really polished things up, and
Gonna be a long day.
What do we do?
We fight! Those on top of me.
So we just talked about of course, the Jaegers and the robot action, but I think Vincent has also touched upon Jake Pentecost as a more interesting character compared to Rayleigh Beckett. And I think John Boyega does actually give a certain charm and maybe youthful
energy, definitely.
Energy, yes. Although, of course, it's no secret. It's kind of like Beckett. He's kind of like the reluctant pilot, but he's there to save the world.
Mm-hmm.
What about the other characters? The other two major Jaeger pilots we do meet is Nate Lambert and Namari.
Okay, well, Scott Eastwood, he pretty much play what he has always played. That it's very similar to his role in Fast and Furious 8, that straight man, the guy that's always by the book. He follow the rules, and he's very rigid, he's very stiff. Just to contrast John Boyega's character. And in a movie like this, you need contrast. And I would say he served his role well. And it's interesting that how him and Jake started off cold. I guess he felt betrayed because Jake left the call, but it's nice to see that their relationship kind of, I guess, fixes itself as the movie progresses. By the end, they're like brothers in arms again, and like there's a mutual respect for each other.
They are indeed, Jake and Lambert are the two more experienced pilots in the Jaeger program. Much of the story takes place in this new Shatterdome in China, which is actually the training ground for new cadets. So basically, Ranger Pentecost, Jake, and Ranger Lambert are the senior pilots there, training the next generation of Jaeger pilots. But that being said, though, they are actually Jaeger pilots who have not had any real action against the Kaiju, because that war ended 10 years ago. And at that time, Jake and Lambert were still cadets, but if we have read the backstory lore correctly, it was actually Jake was dismissed from the program, say a year before the end of the Kaiju War. So Jake and Lambert actually haven't fought real Kaiju, and then again, the only two experienced Jaeger pilots surviving the entire ordeal was Beckett and Mako Mori. Everyone else is fresh. So for the other side characters, Vincent, what would you like to say about Shaw Industries?
Oh yes, Shaw Industry is definitely a major player in this movie, and that's where you can tell that this movie was made with a lot of Chinese money. I mean,
Lee Wen-shao is the CEO of Shaw Industries. A fairly actually young-looking lady.
Yeah, like
the Iron Fist type.
Iron Fist, strong view Chinese women, modern Chinese women that can hold her own against other men, especially American men.
I have a feeling that in the China version of the movie trailers and promotion, I'm sure they would have featured her much more
front and center.
And in fact, I think in the American trailers that we've seen, we actually don't see her much.
Yes.
But her role is actually quite
it's very, very substantial.
I
would say that despite them introducing Armani as like the new girl, I would say Lee Wen actually have a stronger presence and basically more crucial to the overall plot. I mean, in conclusion, one can almost call this a Chinese propaganda movie because, without going too far into spoiler, one can easily conclude from the movie that the Americans screw up, the Chinese has to come in to clean up their mess, and then of course the American misunderstood the Chinese as the bad guy in the beginning, which turns out no, the Chinese have been the good guy all the time, and of course near the end during a crucial,
I'm going to put up spoiler during this
crucial scene, basically the Chinese saved the day again, and the only thing missing is that slow motion shot of a Chinese flag, with the heroes walking in front of it, kind of like in a Michael Bay movie. But the Chinese influence in this movie is very, very strong, and you can tell in a way it's catered to the Chinese market too. And I believe the previous movie actually did very well in the China market. I guess they like giant robots fighting monsters.
Well, a major battle sequence in the previous movie took place in Hong Kong, which, is part of China.
Okay, true. Not the mainland.
Now the main battle sort of takes place in Tokyo, which mayhem and destruction in the origin of giant monster fight movies. The land, land of the rising sun itself, in the shadow of Mount Fuji.
Yes, so, we'll read into that how you want to read into that.
Enough said. So, do you have final conclusions?
Oh, yes, I mean, definitely, this is like spoiler territory, but kind of expected with movies these days, franchise, especially such as this. Basically, the movie does end with a proper ending, but of course with a promise that the threat is not necessarily over. So they are planning more movies, and I mean, to be honest, it's a refreshing kind of movie. I mean, in these days and age where everyone is trying to sometimes overcomplicate their movie, trying to add too many things. I enjoy the simplicity of Pacific Rim. At its core, it's just a fun movie where I drive a giant robot and I beat up some monster, send them back home, and there's always that guilty pleasure in a movie like this. It's just so fun and relaxing to watch, and definitely would want to watch more, and preferably not wait too long for the next one. So do go watch, support this movie, then we'll get more movies.
The movie moves at fairly fast pace. There is only short breathers in between here and there. There is no shortage of action, in my opinion.
Yes. It's definitely a fun movie where they didn't really waste time with unnecessary scenes. You see, the action is always moving, and there's also enough comedy, and there's even a very surprising twist. Like, I did not see it coming. I don't think anyone would see that coming, and that was very good. It was very well done and believable, and it's surprising you find something like this in a movie like this. So, wow, pleasant surprise.
What would you rate this movie out of 10?
Oh, I give it a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, I would definitely like it more than the first movie. I mean, the first movie I would have given it maybe a 8 or 7.5 because I felt the first movie has too much slow moment.
So being a sequel movie, it's actually set certain expectations to the audience out there, and having honestly being told that the first movie wasn't an awesome success, especially in US, it did well enough in the rest of the world to make the sequel. And this sequel, yes, does come with the opportunity for a number of official productizing. This is the LED cup being made available from MBO Cinemas. You get to basically drink out of Gypsy Danger's head and suck out some pilots.
Or Kaiju juice.
Bandai has produced a whole line of Jaeger robots for this movie. This is under the Bandai Tamashii Nations product range and the Robot Spirit sub-genre. This is Gypsy Avenger, but there's also the other 5 different Jaegers featured in this movie. Saber Athena.
Oh, that's my favorite.
Bracer Phoenix, Titan Redeemer, Guardian Bravo, and the evil Jaeger called Obsidian Fury. Of course, they have to fight something too, so they also made a larger figure of the Kaiju Raijin. I am not so sure about the other 2, but either way, there is Bandai has this from Japan. In the US, Diamond Select Toys are also making the 6 Jaegers and some Kaiju. So
not NECA anymore.
Yes, I guess the license have switched.
Lapsed.
Yeah, this came from toy collectors hobby store in Amcor Mall called Secret Base. They do plan to bring in the whole series, but first come first serve as I understand it. The Diamond Select Toys version are available up for pre-order on Kinokuniya Books. You may want to get them. They are priced about 100 ringgit. This was priced at 138 ringgit. Now Bracer Phoenix was priced at 168 and the Kaiju near 200 ringgit. We will talk more about this in an unboxing video which you can search on our YouTube channel up very soon if not yet. So thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you found what we have to see enlightening, and please consider watching Pacific Rim Uprising in cinemas everywhere now in Malaysia. Again, another reminder, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our other social media outlets, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, under Outpost My. Right, thank you very much, Vincent, for your time. It's good to have you here again.
Yes.
Peace and long life. Live long and prosper.
Yeah, and may the force be with you.